Multiple times I go into the H-E-B knowing I need something to eat and I want to eat my meal there. They used to have a little cafe, but they don't anymore. So what I'll do is I go into H-E-B and get that hot food and then get a fruit or two and a drink and just eat in my car.
That's great.
Isn't everybody doing that?
Dude, there is a cranberry chicken or turkey salad sandwich at H-E-B that's ready to eat. That's incredible.
They were giving samples of their sandwiches on Sunday or Saturday, and it was delicious. It was some sort of a Italian lover's paradise or something.
When we lived in Virginia, H-E-B was the thing my wife missed the most. She's like, you don't understand.
Well, actually, here's the thing. It's our new format. And what we do now is instead of doing the intro, outro, how are you doing, what's going on with you?
We still kind of do that.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yeah. But we need to actually start
first day on the job.
Okay, well, we just begin the show with you a little stuff, and then we introduce you and visit with you. But it's not like we're interviewing you. It's like you're hanging out with us, talking about.
No questions.
No questions.
Party only.
It is by the seat, off the cuff. I don't know, another.
I'm with two great comedians. I'm just bring her in here.
Kind.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. I love to be buttered up before I do something.
Well, now that we're all buttered up, do you want to actually start the show?
I wanted to say being buttered up before almost anything in life, I think would improve almost everything I have to do.
Well, like the dentist, if they gave you a real morale boosting session before, you'd feel way better.
When you say that, I was thinking more literally buttered up.
Oh,
I was thinking more literally buttered up.
Like giving a buttered item to eat,
like a little butter everywhere.
I want everyone to take.
There's no
butter. Butter makes it better. Okay, we'll get started.
Hello, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast from the CityRise Network. Hosted by Jennifer Dennis and produced by me, Justin Kello, we're a podcast that was supposed to be focused on parenting, but we've kind of lost the plot along the way. Honestly, we don't know what this podcast is about, but we talk to incredible people who love Jesus, and our hope is to provide encouragement and fun whenever possible. If our lack of clear direction bothers you, we apologize, but no one is making you listen to this podcast, unless you're married to Jennifer. Andy, thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast. We're excited to be with you today. Thank you for listening. And I'm super thankful to our people that listen on the regular. But today, our guest conversationalist, is that what we're doing? Guest conversationalist?
You made this up.
You made this up. Yeah, there it is.
Creative minds right
instead
here.
Instead of, right here, on display, full display. Instead of interviewing someone, what we'd like to do is make it a little bit more topical and bring people in that are verbal and enjoy talking about things. And we just have a conversation to see how it goes.
Yes.
Did the show with Andy already air?
I think so. So today we have Ashley Miksch, who is a student associate at our church.
To that. Yes. I was going to get to that.
And here's the deal. When we talk about bringing somebody in, we're always like, well, why don't we bring Ashley back? Because we love talking to you. So we're real pumped to talk to you. But before we jump into today, I do want to check in. We just all had spring break. You were somewhere. I was somewhere. Do we have anything we want to share from that?
So this is our check-in.
Yeah.
So we're actually doing the show like this. So we don't come back and do more.
Yeah, Ashley can check in with us.
Yay.
Hey, way to be part of it.
Let me say that I was in Florida
Your sister
for my
got
sister's
married.
wedding.
Yes.
My sister's wedding. And let me tell you two things that were interesting. First of all, things that fell apart for her the last week of the wedding. And I think that's pretty normal for everyone for things to kind of not work out, right?
Yeah.
So her dress came back from the seamstress, did not fit. And she calls me and she's like, Jennifer, is this a sign? Should I be worried? I go, no. Next day calls me. There's been an active shooter spotted at the Navy base where she's supposed to get married. Yeah. And I was like, if you're a signs person,
this is kind of blaring.
I feel like that's a sign. So last minute, she has a day and a half to move her wedding.
Wow.
And so she goes to this little local Baptist church in the area where I actually used to be the youth minister there like 25 years ago.
Aw, the Lord works.
And so because of that, I think everything's kind of a little havoc-y.
Yeah.
Trying to get it all
I saw a
together.
video of your father entertaining the crowd.
So that's what I was going to say. The wedding was running an hour behind schedule.
Oh, fun.
Let me say. People do not
popcorn.
love that. They're nice about it for about 10 or 15 minutes, but then they turn on you.
Yeah.
So my dad felt the pressure of this. So my mom's like, Andy, Dad, Jimmy, go out there and tell
do
him.
something. Yeah.
Well, she just said, tell him we're running late.
Oh.
But a few minutes later, my daughter, Olivia, comes in and she goes, Mom, you got to get out there. Papa Jim's taking over the audience.
Wow.
And I go, what does that mean exactly? She goes, well, he's begging people to come up and form singing groups.
Oh.
And he is offering
This
to
is out
pay
of a
people.
movie.
He's offering to pay people to preach from
Wow.
the stage.
I would have taken him up on that.
I could not be in there because I was trying to get the bride ready.
In a
And
dress that didn't fit.
I would have paid pretty good money to watch my dad. I would have actually paid more money to watch the crowd's reaction to my dad.
I heard somebody in the crowd. He was trying to get somebody to do something, and she was like, "Absolutely not." Or there was like some woman that was like very much like, "I'm not participating in this chaos," and you could hear her like whatever her response
Wait, was
was.
this on TikTok? Did
Yes,
you see
she
it?
posted a TikTok
I did
video
post
about
a
it. And
TikTok
there was a
about
woman
it.
in the crowd that was like, "No way."
Well, what happened is my little cousin, who is not my little cousin, he's fully grown and wonderful. He's a pastor.
Okay.
And my dad's like, get on up here and preach.
Mm.
And his wife was like, absolutely not. You're not getting involved in the shenanigans. No way.
Oh,
So that was my spring break.
You
Then I
survived.
came back.
comedy.
Yes.
Mhm.
Lovely. One full day on the beach.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the old lady stage where I am like dressed
Yeah.
full head to toe. I cannot be covering up any more dark spots on
no
my
skin
face.
cancer. No.
No more.
No melanoma.
None of that. But I'm back. How about you?
We went to Arkansas.
You were on a road
We did
trip.
our first road trip with the kids. The furthest they've ever gone
Aw.
was 3 hours, and this was 8 hours.
How'd
I
they
was-
do?
I was very scared, primarily because they are prone to bickering all hours of the day. And when you trap them in a vehicle, that's all they want to do for some reason. And so I built a wall between them. I took, we had these old deep and wide day signs that were in the parking lot that I made like a year ago sitting here. I was like, I'm gonna take one of these. And I just like shoved it between them in their seats and they forgot each other existed. It was actually
look at
perfect.
you.
That was
Solving-
well played.
It was perfect.
I did take my
Everything.
sweater off, so we need to go back and
We're not gonna do anything.
okay.
I have a question though. When you were on a road trip and you
I'm on
stop
a road
and you
trip.
stop to use the bathroom, do you feel obligated to purchase something?
Oh, I don't know that it ever occurs to me not to purchase something.
Oh, so you can't go to a gas
Like,
station without purchasing something.
I think no, I'm always going to get a little something.
Really?
right?
Even when you had a kid and you had
Well-
to stop more frequently, like I understand if you stop every 3 hours, but like with kids, you're stopping every hour and a half.
Oh yeah,
And it becomes
I mean
like
when you're smaller, I guess no, not really. I
so
think
you don't feel obligated to buy anything.
no,
Okay.
I'm not like Sheldon and when he makes his roommates go and buy something across the
Oh,
gas
does
station.
he?
He's like, it's customary. It's customary.
I feel an obligation and I ignore that obligation. But at the same time, there's this urge in me of like, okay, well, if I go number one, I would buy a pack of gum. And if it's something any more than that, it's got to be big. Like, I feel like there's like, I have this weird thing that I have to pay. And it's weird because I feel bad for a corporate conglomeration and like stealing a flush from them that I have to buy something.
Yeah, but I'm just sort of like
and I'm overcoming it.
perplexed.
I'm telling you, I'm overcoming it.
You're headed like if you're headed out with like a big pickle and some
I feel like
pizza
I paid. Oh,
and
you know
a
what I
drink,
did. You
I'm
know
gonna
what I
be
did.
like, dear, what has he done? To
If
that
you buy
restaurant?
gas, it's like I bought gas. I can do whatever I want in there. Like,
Yes.
it's like no rules. But if I
Right,
didn't
'cause you
need gas,
purchased.
which with
Right.
my kids, I stop when I don't need gas, which
Right.
is weird.
I don't feel that. I don't feel that
Really?
pressure.
Okay.
My dad would never let us stop. So we didn't ever stop. So we found a container or
Yeah.
a bottle in the car. Or if
Uh-uh.
and if we were to ever stop, there's no purchasing. You get in and get out. Like we have a goal in mind. And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is wasting our time.
Did y'all like rest stops where there's no obligation? It was just like a picnic area, or do you stop
we
at
were
those?
just not going.
Wow.
Well, of course, when my dad got remarried, I still don't think we did, but I think her kids were used to that. So it was a bit of like, what are we gonna do? And I just stayed in the car because I was like, my dad
You
won't
don't
let
know
me
how
to
bad
get out
this
of this
is.
car. Like I'm not leaving. Like this is.
If I were you, I'd spend a lot of time thinking about the containers in the car.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
How many I have?
just,
do
like,
I have
where
a
are they?
lid?
Are they
Where can I
accessible?
find these?
It was wild. So, but I mean, I would just hold it or a bottle usually.
My
Dude,
mom had a
I'll-
pretty.
I'll-
My mom had to stop pretty often growing up. So
as
I
a
felt
student
like I
pastor,
was.
you got to stop a lot.
I felt pretty spoiled growing up.
I'd say recently is the first time I like went into a gas station and like bought something with friends, you know,
Wow.
like Buc-ee's.
What
like,
an
it's amusement
experience.
park. So I was like, oh,
I was with you,
yeah.
and
Your
we
first
stopped-
Buc-ee's experience?
No,
You were
not my-
there?
No.
not my
Oh,
first
whoa, whoa,
one.
whoa.
I was with
My first-
Ashley and Buc-ee's, and it was like a holiday for
Yeah.
Ashley.
It was so.
She got so many great fun things to eat, and
Listen, my family cannot
was
drive
a
by a
treat.
Buc-ee's without stopping. Like
No, I can't.
we
I
cannot.
almost physically
we
cannot
stop.
get off. I can almost physically not keep myself from getting off at
Yeah.
Buc-ee's.
I say
love
Buc-ee's
it
is
so
the
much.
safest place that I could go to the bathroom, but I don't feel like I have to buy anything.
I mean,
Here's
that's
what
fair.
I want to ask: if you go to the Buc-ee's, can you get out of there with buying something in that heated center section?
We always buy something.
chopped barbecue beef
could.
sandwich,
Mhm.
slabs of oh my goodness, everything.
You can also order stuff like chicken tenders.
Yes.
it's
which
lots.
I-
Do you get the chicken tenders? Is that
When
what
we
you're
went
working
on like a big stuff trip, that was my first time. I didn't know you could order.
beautiful.
You
Buc-ee's is beautiful.
immediately go in there and order. Then you go to the bathroom. You got to
Yeah.
come back and pick up your order. It's
That's
got to be a whole
smart.
rigmarole. Well, Ashley, tell us about your spring break because I think you're going.
markedly more spiritual
I
than
think
ours.
you're going to win spring break talk for today.
Oh yeah. So we took our seniors to Ecuador. Incredible trip with very mature students. Obviously it's so sweet to watch their faces as they like see a new world, how it's rocked. And you go expecting to change other people's lives, but then the Lord like changes your life. And so we went to we work with One Heart Ministry, One Heart Ecuador with Kati. We've ministered with her for quite some time. And so it was just really sweet to see them sharing the gospel with kids, the joy that they realize and the kind of reflection, like, do I even know how to share the gospel?
Yeah.
I think a lot of our kids were kind of stunned. Like, I actually don't know if I know how to share this.
Yeah.
And so like, obviously once you start doing it, it's like fully trusting on the Lord.
Mhm.
Our translators were such a big help too, because they, two different languages.
They fill in the gaps too. sometimes, I
Yes.
think.
So
I
when
think
you
they,
mess
like-
up, they feel confident because like, oh, they got it. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it was so sweet. And just the way they treat us in Ecuador, how,
Mhm.
we just come here and like we wash their feet and share the gospel, which is powerful. They like give us like a week's worth of their earnings,
Mhm.
or their produce. And our kids are like, no, like it's just like the way they just give when they
Mhm.
have so little.
Yeah.
It makes our kids reflect like, what am I doing in my own
Yeah.
time? Like, what am I giving?
It's so funny. In my community group, we read about Jesus washing feet, and we studied about that moment. And everyone in the room is like, "Oh, that's so gross. Oh, I can never do that. Oh, it's like crazy that Jesus did that for these people." I was like, "Well, we have an entire trip that's all we do. Like
Yes,
literally
our
our
senior Ecuador trip.
teenagers, and we've done some adult trips too. But like the whole thing is washing feet and sharing the gospel, and then
What a beautiful.
and then
oh.
and then
picture.
Kati comes
It's
back
so
and
powerful.
basically plants a church, which is incredible. But it was just such a funny thing to have all these grown adults say, "Oh, I can never. That's so gross. Oh, it's crazy. Jesus loves us so much to wash our feet." I'm like, well, our seniors do this every year. Like it's like
on the regular.
the whole trip.
And I mean, and the Lord calls us to get out of our comfort zone. And it's
Mhm.
like, Jesus did that, right? For us.
Yeah.
So like, why is it so difficult if it doesn't meet our bill of what it means to be a Christian?
Right.
Like we're supposed to do that,
Yeah.
And
Well,
so-
that's fantastic. I'm so glad you're able to go. What an amazing.
Because last year there was political unrest.
yeah. So we went to Guatemala.
Our group
instead.
didn't go last year.
Right.
Mhm.
Still a good trip though.
Yeah.
Guatemala was a
Still
great
an
trip. That's
amazing
where
trip.
Olivia went. She
Olivia
loved
went
it.
on that.
Yeah.
She loved it. So, which brings us to our roundtable discussion. I haven't figured out the transitions on the
Well, that's a
where we
rectangle
just-
table, so you can't even say that.
I'm this.
Oh, that is so sad. So I told Ashley today, she's like, what questions are you asking me? And really, what I want to talk about today is friendship.
Great.
And what we're finding in statistics, what the research is finding, and
What the
an
TikTok
article.
videos are showing you.
I actually looked up real research
Great.
that was in a BBC article that came out in January, where it talked about now they're finding out that the health of your relationships is directly tied to the health of you as a human and your longevity of life, your
Mhm.
heart healthiness. Like they're finding that all of this is connected to your relationships, which is really no surprise to us.
Yeah.
But they're also finding that people are not making these friendships. They're
Right.
finding that people have a whole life online
Mm,
that is not
Mm.
real.
correct.
I mean, it's unlikely a TikTok star is going to come over and help you at 3 a.m.
Correct.
So our discussion today is around friendship.
Mm,
What are some of your biggest goals in making friendships? How do you keep friendships healthy during the different seasons of life?
Yeah.
How do you know when to let a friend go when
Yeah.
it's not a fit anymore? And are we, especially as believers, like contractually obligated
Yeah.
to stay in friendships that might be toxic
Yeah.
or difficult? And
Mm.
finally, how to pray for friends and
Yeah.
where to find them.
I have a chapter in my book devoted to friendship. The book that I wrote last year that 4 people have purchased. Thank you to the 4 people that purchased it.
What's this book called?
It's
Justin?
called "You're Not a Bad Person, You're a Parent," and
Mm.
the chapter is about how parenting can make you feel like you're a bad friend because ultimately like you have all this like expendable free time that's suddenly gone and all of your energy is in keeping a human alive. And one of the easiest things to let fall to the wayside are friendships. Like your marriage, it's still right in front of you. You're trying to keep it healthy. You know, your faith, you're still trying to keep it healthy. One of the easiest things to let fall apart when you're a parent is the friendships, because they're busy as well. They start having kids and these relationships are hard to keep up. And so I do want to say something about, I don't want digital connection to have this like permanent stigma on it. I think there are seasons where digital connection is all someone can do, or is primarily what they can do. And so you may not be able to grab coffee with your friend, but you can text them back and forth, you know, because parenting has taken over your life, or whatever, maybe, or you're unwell, or you're sick, or your job is crazy. Like, I think there's seasons where digital connection is valid. I think the problem is when it's your only connection forever.
Right.
So I don't want people to walk in saying, well, you know, because like you can make real friends online. Like you can really
I've seen
connect.
real community of people, like small business owners, or just like people that wouldn't start like cooking, right? Like, or people that are on a low budget, they go to the Dollar General. How do I cook food? So women that have like,
I've seen some of those videos.
Single wives that are trying to, or single moms that are trying to take care of their kids. Like that helps build a community of women who don't have their husbands around that they can support each other.
But if that's all you had forever, absolutely, that's a problem.
So another type of friend that they talk about is called like friendly acquaintances. And they said that is also super important, because it's not just your closest friends that are in your life, but it's this community in your everyday life that you're running into these same people. Like, and maybe they're not your best buds, but it's friendly acquaintances. What they talk about is in the article that those are also really important for people.
Yeah.
In health, to have those be in a good, healthy place.
Well, those are also seasonal too. So we're talking about teenagers. They have infinite access to acquaintances like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they have so many activities, so much school. Like you have so much opportunity for that.
In every class, they're given a new group.
Yeah. But then as you get older, that becomes harder and harder.
Absolutely.
Like, and so we've got the teenage side who may have an overwhelming amount of people, like too many people to choose from. And then you get into the real world and you grow up and you leave college and you have a family, and suddenly it's like that casual acquaintance, especially for moms. Like I know for Kristen, when she was staying at home with kids, she literally had
super isolated.
So few casual fun acquaintances.
Like two of my ladies, my first ladies in the day, are generally at the first and second window at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And they are friendly and nice. And we tell each other, have a beautiful day. And it's always a really good exchange. And I'm like, how are you today? And they're like, why don't you get the app? Half of this would be free. Yeah. It would be so much cheaper. And Andy's like, why don't you get that? Because every day I'm like, this is the last day I'm coming here. And then every day I'm back there. But I mean, and I speak about this real quick before we move into some of the issues with friendship is, for me, Andy calls me Community Jen. It's because I have a weirdly big desire to modelly connect with almost everyone that is around. And a lot of people don't have that. I want to find connective moments with almost every human I come in contact with.
Yeah.
For you, are you looking at me like, I don't have that?
I'm thinking more of Ashley. I want to ask Ashley, so in student ministry, whether you are naturally inclined or not, if you're paid to be there, you have to be that way. You have to find a way to connect with as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So do you think you're naturally inclined for that? Or do you think that your job pushes you to discipline yourself to where you make that connection with a wide group of people?
Well, for me, because I was saved when I was young by someone who was 13, I see value in getting to know each and every teenager that walks through the door. I want to know them because I know that feeling that they already deal with. Like, do I want to be seen? Do I want to be known? Does anyone hear me? Does anyone see me? God sees you. And I'm here to have that kind of be that for them, connect with them to the Lord, if that makes sense. Sorry. But each one matters to me. So for me, I want to.
Okay.
Even if I wasn't paid, I would do it on the side. I would volunteer because it matters that deeply to me, especially because I feel like I'm also a very transparent person, which I start to realize that not a lot of people do that, right? You trust your certain people and then you don't trust other people. But with student ministry, I'm very transparent. I want to know what's on your heart. A lot of times there's that fun in student ministry, but I want to know who are you and what's going on in your heart, because there's not a lot of outlet where you can just talk about things, especially with friendships. You gotta have to cultivate a personality that soothes everyone. You're trying to meet everyone's requirements, but that's not what God's called you. You've been made a certain way. Let's figure out how God's made you and gifted you and lean into that. You don't have to cater to everyone. You don't have to be like everyone else, but the world's like brainwashing them. No, be this way, be that way. And so it's easy for me just because it matters to me.
So it's almost like that is an expression of your calling.
Yes.
Like I think some people are called to ministry, to teach, to equip, to go on missions, or whatever. You're saying you feel called just to make people feel connected and to God and to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
100% relational.
Wow.
And also bring the Bible in and what is God saying to you?
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
so, yeah.
What about what are some goals when you think about like forming new friendships or somebody who's thinking I need some friends? What do you think are the goals that are? It's like you've got to have this as a goal in making friends.
The goal is to make friends.
When you're making friends, like what are some? I will
say this: it's so different based on your season. So when I went to college, when I went to college, I knew I had to make friends. I was going from a small town to a giant school. I was like, I will die here if I don't make friends. I have to figure this out. And so the only way I knew to make friends, fortunately, was to go to a church. And I went to a church, and the first 3 or 4, 5, 6 times were very uncomfortable and not that fun because I did not know anybody. You have to push through the awkwardness of not knowing anybody until you finally make a meaningful connection. And it wasn't until I went on fall retreat, which I didn't want to go to, but the Holy Spirit was like, you have to go on this if you want to make friends. Like you have to get away from here, spend 2 days with these people, and you're going to walk away with friends. And I did. And once I did that, it felt so. One goal at one stage in life is it's going to be uncomfortable. Like I think a lot of times we think it has to be natural. And like, if it's not natural, it's not real. That.
I'm sad I did not say that first because that's so powerful in that it's not going to feel great for a while when you're trying to make friendships,
right? When
you're trying to dive, especially if you're at church, in small groups, in community groups, in wherever. It takes a while. You're not just assigned, here are your 6 closest friends that are going to walk you through every season of your life. Yeah. And here are their addresses. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't happen that way. You have to be comfortable with the discomfort.
Right.
Of in the between time, looking too needy to, like, do you want a friend?
Well,
I'd like to be your friend.
You're probably the same way. I kind of hate small talk. Like I'm ready for when the relationship gets real.
You know
what I'm saying? But
give me the
whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
But I think don't you like to dive deep in conversation?
I want to know you and I want real. I want like, what are we going to there's like so much that we can talk about other than like the shallow stuff. But like I understand like
you're
in
both
general,
a little bit alike in that.
I know in general that's like
but
the
you
game,
have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah. That's and I mean I do it all the time with student ministry. Like literally, I have to cultivate space for kids to do that, but I want to go deeper. And like, especially with like, prayer requests, homework. I want to get A on my science. And it's like, there's so much more to you.
Let's get real.
Right.
Let's get
so
real.
much more that you need us to be
so funny.
for.
That makes me think I would be okay living in a matrix because I'm like, I'm good just talking to people.
Yeah.
I'm okay with small.
But you're really entertaining. So it's like fun. Like not everyone has that key ingredient.
So
working in student ministry where it's like unbearably like, no offense, it's so much fun. But like the unbearable, like no one's talking, but everyone's craving conversation and relationship. But like you have to be uncomfortable. And that's why you need to live life together. That's why you need to go to a fall retreat. That's why you need to go away from church and get to know people and like dive in deeper. So when you come to church on Sunday and Wednesday, you can be honest.
Sure.
You know what I mean? About where God's moving in your life or where you don't see him moving in your life.
Yeah.
I think we've seen this quotation. I'm sure you guys have heard this quoted that you are the amalgamation. I don't know if that's the word. You are the amalgamation of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I think that when you're talking about who to choose as friends, it would be someone that you would want to be because you become who you are around.
Sure.
So it might be somebody that you would at least admire, that you could trust, that would have some qualities that you find endearing or important rather than, just anybody. I like to find people that are inspiring in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think your assumption in this statement though is that you have people to choose from. Like you got to find a space where those people exist, whether it's work or church or whatever. And then you can quote unquote, like pick the ones that are you most resonate with. But
you can take applications.
At the same time though, I'd like for y'all to talk about specifically the barriers of groups that already exist. I think that both my wife and I have seen that we walk into a church where people have been going for 15, 20 years
Sure,
and they're
of
all
course.
kind and they're all friendly.
And they don't need your friendship.
Right. But they don't need your friendship.
They don't have any openings in the bunker.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
How do you navigate that?
Well, joke's on them. They're not getting your amazing personality. Of course, I run into this all the time. There are people, especially, I mean, and I'm sure you guys do, you run into people that are like in your community group. And yes, they've been hanging out since their 24-year-old was in diapers with all of these other parents. Yeah. And you're like, I'm definitely not going to get on any of these text chains.
Yeah. I think it's being okay with that. I just don't.
You have to be okay with that.
I don't want anyone to walk away thinking like you can just pick and choose the coolest people and be their friends, because you can't.
No, let's back up and say you absolutely probably cannot do that. Let me begin by saying you're not like, well, let me begin by saying praying for friendships, praying for God to bring you strong, meaningful friends is so important.
Yeah.
I cannot stress that enough. Yeah. I have seen God put friends into my daughter's life, into my life, into my friends. I mean, I've just seen God work miracles of friendship in people's lives, because he doesn't mean for us to do this life alone. So yes, I do think it's a matter of prayer. I do think sometimes it's hard to bust through friends that have already got a group, but don't you love those people that are in that group that want their group to be bigger and include other people?
Yeah.
To me, those are the superstars of humans. They're in the cool group, but they think you should be in the cool group. They're like, you should come and be with us. You need to come with us. I mean, it just like makes my heart like glow when people have that level of confidence and that level of love for other people.
Yeah, because you're about to shift the whole group, and you're
going to shift the whole group.
There's
you do not care.
You can't make it fun.
I don't think Jennifer comes in the group quietly. That's for sure.
No. No, I love those people that have that quality of, some people hate change and they hate change and they hate change.
Yeah.
And so when
say it one more time on the back. Say it again.
Put it out there for the people in the back. Hey, people hate change.
Yeah.
And women especially, if they feel threatened or they feel like, oh, no, and you think it ends in middle school.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you.
Just the beginning.
It does not end, because women work very hard to cultivate or to artesian. I don't think that's the word. To cultivate their group of friends. They don't want change.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily love the new person coming in.
Sure.
So it's hard for them. So it's hard for women who can see that happening to feel like they can, but tell you who's more powerful than that. The Lord. God can do that. Look, you acted, certainly you knew God.
I thought you were say Beth Moore.
Ding, 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 ding.
No shade on Beth Moore, who's never been on our podcast.
If you're listening.
Even though we've had Philip Yancey himself.
Reach out to us.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Both of you, you mentioned for your kids and you minister to teenagers. So as a mom of a teenager who is now 20 or whatever, and a minister of teenager, when you can't force your kids to make friends. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't make them make those friends.
You can't make those people be friends with them.
Right. You can't make those people be friends with them.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So as a mom, how do you navigate that? As someone who sees teenagers navigating complicated relationships every day, what do you say to a parent who has a student who doesn't have friends, or they have the very clearly wrong friends?
I have tickets to that show as well.
Okay.
Ashley, what do you do when you're seeing a kid not finding a space?
It's really difficult, especially because you think that going to church, you're going to live like Jesus did, right? And live a life that is different and apart from everyone else, and see people in the image of God, and see that there's more value to someone than them entertaining you or them pleasing you. And it's so hard when it's like we teach them Wednesdays and Sundays and we live life with them about how Jesus lived his life, but it's your relationship with God and your experience of understanding him is kind of the Holy Spirit moving. And so sometimes it's so hard when you see these girls and you see people who could be so good as friends, but no one's taking the initiative, or they're not funny enough, or, maybe they're not popular. It's really hard being on the other end. No, it doesn't matter. They only spend so much time with us, right? versus they're with the world
Sure,
24/7.
of
They're on
course,
TikTok.
right.
They're seeing what's popular. They're seeing what's trending. They're seeing what matters to them. And sometimes it's not the people that are in front of them, right? Which is what you were saying. You can't cater to what your wants are the cool people. And so, I mean, for me, it's I'm always frustrated with it. And I just have to pray and trust the Spirit to move. And I try to, us all, the 3 other people I work with, the associates, we try to like bring in conversations. We try to bring the students in. We try to like see, like, we have to pick out, okay, what do we know that they have in common, and have those conversations. We try to go hang out with each other. Like, you know what I mean? We like try to make things happen. But the thing is, and this is the thing too, I think sometimes, like, obviously we're not meant to be alone. We're supposed to have the community. But sometimes I think our kids get so desperate, they will take anyone,
Right.
which is where the toxic relationship goes in. And then they think it's something because they're not alone. But I think there is seasons sometimes of being alone, and you go share the gospel, go reach out, go give to people, you know, go serve, like do something for the Lord and see what God's going to move on your heart and the people he's going to bring you alongside the way.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the toxic relationship. Cause I remember the last church I worked for, I was praying for some girls because they all went to different schools. And I was like praying for God to bring the friends. Well, I wasn't specific, and they got really good friends, but they were not quality friends that choose the Lord. Right. It's no, you know, new thing, you know, smoking weed and drinking, you know, like, hey, come on in. Like, you don't have to fit our criteria.
Right.
They're so inviting. The
Right.
church, are we as inviting? Come on in. You don't have to meet a certain criteria.
Sure. Yes.
Be part of this group. But the world sometimes is inviting. And that was so hard, because then I have my friends not lonely anymore, but now they're having to choose, do I drink?
They're
or
not with quality friends.
They're not
that
with
you
quality
would.
friends that choose Jesus.
Now
and that's a
with-
whole nother thing to talk
Well,
about.
let me pause on real quick to affirm your team. And so the question is, what do we do if our kids aren't connecting? I think first and foremost, like, if you aren't making them come to church, like if you're at a church with a designated youth ministry, get in there, because
Right.
they're doing something for that. I had the honor and privilege of recording. Basically, I was trying to make a video that was like a day in the life of a youth worker, and I haven't been able to finish it yet because life is crazy. But I had Leanne Dixon mic'd up, and I was recording her across the room all Sunday morning with some students. And I saw her effortlessly take these 2 girls that didn't know each other and put them together in a conversation, and her back. Like, it was insane.
Yes.
Like, she was sitting at a table just visiting with so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, I heard that you go to that school. And then boom, they knew the same person. And I was like, she is like doing it. Like,
Right.
Yes.
and it was just a glimpse of the 15, 20, 30 youth workers you have that are doing that every Sunday and every
Yes.
Wednesday night.
Well, and that team, I agree with Justin. That team is fabulous at helping support, and even yourself stepping in and being the friend that that those students need until they find someone or until they age out. Right.
As a mom, do you have something to say?
I have a lot to say.
I mean,
Probably too
you've lived
much
it.
for this show.
Don't name
I've
names.
lived it, and I've lived it in a way that has been so painful. You know, when you hurt for your kids, it's so funny because they will usually bounce back before you will.
Yeah.
Like, you just want to throw up. You're so sad. But let me say this. We did several things when Olivia was in a place where she didn't have friends, or she felt like she didn't have any friends. Number one, we would continually remind her of her bigger identity within our bigger community. You're important to so-and-so. You're important to so-and-so. So-and-so loves you. They're your friends. These are your friends. And we would spend time just encouraging her with all the relationships that she had that were not necessarily these 4 people that's in this one classroom, this one year, this one school. Another thing we did is we got her involved in as many things as we could, as much as she would allow us. So she would have a volleyball team, and that was a different group of kids, and she got along with them really well. And then she would be there was some other thing, like she did the swim team for 8 seconds, and she did that did not last long. She tried soccer. She tried she tried
Did she do golfing?
Upward. She did Upward. What now?
Did she do golfing?
She did golfing her senior year.
Yeah.
Like, we're always,
I remember
that was
that.
so random. Like, we're always encouraging her. And then she did, I cannot service for kids who cannot find their place. So when she was in high school, she really struggled with a whole friendship dynamic, and she joined Best Buddies.
Yeah.
And that was where she completely healed from so much to be somebody there for someone else. She would come to church and would have no one to sit with. And so we encouraged her to sit with kids who have no one to sit with that are younger than you. They just need a big kid to look up to. And that was a huge thing for her. And what I do is I encourage parents to just keep brainstorming ways to get your kids plugged in, involved, connected, in as many different ways as you think, so that they know that their world is so much bigger than this one relationship that's not going right.
Yeah. That's huge.
Tons of prayer. I remember the year before 5th grade year, we were just devastated that she did not have a good godly friend. And literally God moved in this entire family, and the dad was a pastor of the Chinese church in the area. And he brought Hawan, who was this girl going in 5th grade. She and Olivia were going to be in the same class. She was a strong Christian and they loved each other.
Oh, great.
It was a total God thing. God is so powerful when it comes to these things. There, I've talked enough about that.
Well, I think the wisdom of getting them involved in more things, I think, is huge. Because like, you don't want to overwhelm them with activities, but you also say, hey, there's more ponds to be fishing in. You know, like it's not just this church group or this class or whatever. Like and our city is large enough that like they can go and be a totally different group and not know anybody there and not have any pre-existing baggage or whatever with any of them.
Right.
And start over and so I think that's huge.
So let's talk about, now that you've made some friends, and Ashley brought it up, which I thought was really great. How do you know when to walk away from friends? How do you know when it's time to call it a day on a friendship that is just not going?
Jennifer,
great?
let me talk to you about this, Jennifer. I think
you wait until the middle of a podcast.
Hey, listen, this is how we get ratings. Me and Jennifer are done.
This
Friendship
is our last show.
over.
Finishing up.
How to know when to walk away? Wow. I will say, to me, I've seen most friendships fall apart because someone is hurt. It's not a decision. It's not like you're not good for me. It's like, no, you hurt me. You let me down. You talked to me behind my back.
Right.
You excluded me from that thing. It's very, you hurt me and I'm out of here. Now, this idea of maybe you've invested in this person isn't changing or growing or whatever. I think that's probably less common, because I think we tend to bail when things get weird pretty quickly. I don't think there's a lot of people who are like devoted to like a friendship so hard unless they like grew up with them. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's someone from your childhood, high school, those are the ones that are hardest. Kristen had a friend like that who just kept making bad choices. Here's my first memory of Kristen. I was the youth intern at her church. She was just a year younger than me, 2 years younger than me, but she was a senior, and it was an interview for a mission trip. The youth pastor would interview kids just to kind of get them used to being interviewed. And he'd ask questions about their life and who their friends are and whatever. And he knows this friend that she had that was struggling. And he said, hey, how's so-and-so? Have you talked to her lately? And Kristen started crying. As like a senior in high school, she started crying because her friend had been making so many bad choices that like she could not be her friend anymore. And as a senior, she had to make that kind of like distance of like, yeah, she's making terrible choices. I can't be with her. And so my first memory of Kristen really is her being heartbroken over somebody else's sin, which is like, a powerful thing to experience.
You're like, that's cute.
Yeah, that's real sweet. Let's wait a year until you graduate and then it'll be sweet. But you just reminded me of like, yeah, there is a moment that you have to give up. Not like you don't love them anymore, but it's like, hey, they are dragging me down. They're trying to drag me down.
And I don't think that moment is necessarily just because you have different political views.
Okay.
And I'm throwing that out there. I want to say that Justin and I don't always agree on everything, and Ashley and I fight all the time. I'm just kidding. But to throw away friendships based on something that is your identity that shouldn't be that big of your identity really bothers me. And that's what some of the research is showing, that because we're so polarized as a nation, that it is destroying relationships and families, that because we aren't the same politically, that we shouldn't be in fellowship with each other.
Let me tie this into social media. I think we wouldn't know people's political beliefs so clearly if we didn't always put it all over the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think half of the battles of like, you don't believe the way I do is you wouldn't even bring that up in a regular conversation.
So Ashley, when do you know step away?
Like for my personal or as students? Is there
whatever comes to mind first? Who have you given up on and why?
I'm not one to give up, which is probably the issue. But with students, it's really hard for me to ever see them actually give up.
Yeah.
They're willing to risk anything.
Really?
And everything for each other, which is like, there's like sweetness, but it's like oh no, like there's like a internal battle. Cause it's like, you deserve more than this, but they all deserve more than this, right? Like when you're raised in this kind of culture, like the polarizing views or just like the hate or you're different or I don't know you, I don't know your language. There's so much hate out of what, you know? And you don't even know this person truly. Like no one gets honest and open about things. So everyone's just judging based on fast things, right? And you know, if you're going to drive by a certain restaurant, you're not going to know what their restaurant's actually like. You're just seeing based on what they're showing you, right? Or reviews of what other people say, which could be good, I guess. But it's just like, it's so hard to help students know how to navigate because when you know it's toxic, they have to have that realization. But they are willing to sacrifice so much until they're face down, right? And that person gave up on them is what I usually see. I usually see the other people turning on them and then they have to go, okay, like God help me. You know what I mean? And so it's hard because I know that we all have a different journey and God's intricately trying to work into our lives to stop worshiping people and worship him first and let him guide you in your life and bring the right people in your life. But we're so needy and earnest for all these fulfillments of the flesh. We just depend on people so much. And that's why I think it's sometimes okay if you have just like maybe that one friend or maybe even that one mentor, but have God, right? And I know that sounds maybe different than what a lot of people say, but people like eat at each other, you know? And you need the church. Don't get me wrong. Like we need each other and we need to be, you know, praying over each other and sharing with one another. But out in that world, it can be so dangerous when you're like, you know, be friends with whoever, you know, because they start going down dark paths that we don't even know about, right? And when the church doesn't have that safe space where you can be vulnerable, they're suffocating in it, right? Because there's a lot of topics, as we know, that's scary to talk about. So they never talk about it with us. So we let the culture raise our kids, right? And tell them how to live their life. And so sometimes it's so difficult to know how to like, you encourage them to let go of the relationship, but they have to choose that, right? Or they're hurt by the person.
Yeah.
So it's very hard because like, you know, being in ministry, I'm not the mom, right? Like I hope that they go to their mom for like a certain advice. I want to navigate through this with them and pray over them. But I hope that they have learned something from their parents and us to make those decisions. And if the Spirit's moving, they'll make the right one. But if they're not spending time in the Word with the Lord, I'm not going to feel convicted.
Right. How will they even know if they're not? Yes. If they're not in God's Word, they can't sense his talk, his calling and his teachings.
Or letting things go.
Right.
Like you don't have to be best friends with everyone.
That's really good. That's some really great wisdom. I love that.
My daughter is so contrary that I think when I face this, if she's got a friend that I don't like, I'm going to act like I love that person. Like, this is the coolest kid. Can they come over?
You're going to have to hang out with that kid every single day.
They're so cool. I think they're so funny.
Like
I know she'll reject them immediately. Like I just...
You already know.
All right. Well, this has been a great discussion.
Yeah, are we done?
Yeah, I think we are.
That's all you have?
Yeah, that's good. Is this how long?
Does anybody need friends? Fill out a form?
Well, I'm noticing that we've got to figure. I was looking at the time and you've got something.
I got to leave
soon.
it. I mean, I got 15 minutes.
So I was going to do our final question and then wrap up.
That's great.
So sorry.
Wait, how do you feel about this format?
I don't know if I gave enough. I'm sorry. I don't know.
No, that was awesome.
We love your answer. It's
we
amazing.
want to give the podcast to you and just let you.
Yeah, you move on. It's another team.
Let's check in. How do you feel about this format? You feeling good?
I feel like good. I didn't listen yet to the show with Andy.
Okay, so you don't know.
So I don't know yet.
You don't know.
I'll have to listen to the show with Andy.
When you read or when you watch
I love
it?
that. I mean, I feel good about the show today. I feel good about the things that Ashley said. I feel good about our hot sports opinions on friendship.
And sometimes I might not have like the answer, right? Because I'm like in it with the students. And you know how like you should correct them and help them, but like you can't force. Like as a mother, when you saw Olivia hurting,
we can't force. I wish we could.
Olivia, come on, like you got this. Like,
come on,
they love you, but then it's like, then you get they get the wrong friends, and then you're like, well, you're not alone. But I'm like, I think sometimes it's healthy to be alone and work on a relationship with God, and maybe that's a call of reading. But we don't like sit in that, like, you know, because a lot of our students don't go sit with God. Right. And I think they need more of that quality time to go sit with God. And I mean, it's hard. And I hurt for them because I've done the, you know, Leanne, we all like working the ministry, you have to connect people, but it's like the world's teaching you so much to be selfish. Mm-hmm. The Lord's the opposite, be selfless. And that's a battle they're going to face every day.
Yeah. Amen. So, okay, here is the get to know you question while we're at it. How about, let's do a friendship question.
Where's your app?
I'm not using my app today.
Okay.
I'm just going to go
freewheeling
it.
Winging it.
Is freewheeling a word?
I think so.
Is that a phrase?
Better.
Okay, tell me if there was one childhood friend that you wish you could have in your adult life, who would it be?
Oh.
A childhood friend that you left behind that you wish you could pull them back into your adult life and just be in life with them.
What's the time frame of childhood?
Yeah. Is it 18?
Like,
Like,
no,
or
let's say
5.
up to 7th grade.
Okay.
Like a childhood in one of your classes friend
Hmm.
that you could bring back.
Okay.
It's wild because your perspective back then was so different.
So do they need to be in my life?
To I
Like, did anyone I
that
know in 7th
person
grade need to be
need
my
to-
friend?
or somebody you remember that you wish. I've got my person. I can
Go
go ahead
for
and
it.
talk.
Yeah, you go.
I had this friend. Oh my goodness. Her name is Jennifer Boutwell.
Oh, I know her.
You do not know her.
They
What?
went to church.
We went
together 5 years ago.
went to school together. We went to elementary school together in 4th grade and 7th grade. And Jennifer Boutwell was one of the most sarcastic, funny people I'd ever met. But woo, her humor, she's very smart. She's very smart. And her humor was sharp. And we used to laugh all the time. And she would write me letters. And I found them when I went home. You know how your parents are always making you throw away your stuff?
Yeah.
And my mom's like, Jennifer, we found this box of letters. And it's like a full,
That's
big
so
shoe-sized
precious.
box filled with letters from Jennifer Boutwell.
Wow.
She was an amazing, loyal friend. And then I
Aw.
reached out to Jennifer Boutwell. Her name is different now. And I said,
She
hey,
said,
I found this whole
"Who are
box
you?"
of letters. Would you like for me to mail them to you? And she goes, oh, hey, sure. Here's my address. And then I forgot to mail them.
Where are they? Did you throw them away?
They're at my mom's and I can't find them.
Wow.
So this wonderful grown-up woman is waiting for these letters. And
Wow.
I'm like, in true fashion, because her letters to me were always like, I know you probably haven't
You
got
should
around
make
to
a book
write.
with them.
If you could just write me one letter for every 8 letters that I write you, that would be amazing. It was just like, obviously, I was not keeping up with
Yeah.
my
Duty
side of the
as a
market.
friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would bring her. I think it'd be cool to see her more on the regular.
I think it's funny you mentioned 7th grade because that's really when that's my first year I had what I would call really, really best friends. Elementary school, I'm kind of in and like I grew up with the same kids my entire life. It was a small town, but something happened in middle school where in 6th grade, I joined the math team.
Ooh.
And here's what's cool about the math team. We got to.
Here is what is
Can you lean
cool.
forward into the mic and talk
I'm
instead of like being so chill?
I'm just like, so here
You're
we're going to
so
hear
done.
what's cool about the math.
Here's
team.
what's cool about-
so opposite.
Here's
Y'all
what's
are
One
cool about the
thing.
math team in middle school. It was the only non-sports activity that would have weekend away things where you got on a bus and went away and did something.
Okay.
You had to
Not
play
the one-night
football
play. You guys
or
didn't have one-night play?
not in middle school. No, we were a small town. So math team was the first thing you could join that wasn't sports that you would go away for a Saturday morning and hang out. So we would go and do a math test from 9 to 9:30. And then the rest of the morning, we're just hanging out playing at this random high school because there's a bunch of tests happening throughout the day. And in that casual hangout time, I found my 2 best friends that like carried me through middle school. Evretta Rice and Lewis Gore. They were so funny. We became super tight. And they are like the highlight of middle school because 6th grade is really bullyful, like a lot of bullying, a lot of really terrible times. But by 7th grade, after a year in the math team, like I was like, oh, these are the people that are awesome. And so, and I think even still they're great people. So like, I'd love to have them.
Your
We're
whole
totally
math team. Bring 'em
different now.
back.
Like,
You'd have
bring
your
back the
team
math
back.
leagues.
like Lewis Gore is like a mechanic guy, like loves cars. Like I don't think we'd have a lot in common anymore, but they're still good
You'd
people.
love to have
day.
the math.
Well,
team
and
back.
here's the thing about Evretta. So she reached out to me after my dad died, and she accidentally came to the funeral 1 week early. Like, so she came to the church when it wasn't happening, and she, messaged me, said, "Hey, I can't come to the actual funeral. I thought it was that day. I drove whatever. She lived like an hour away."
Oh,
And I was like,
that's
"Oh
so
my God!" Like,
wholesome.
like super sweet. So the 7th grade
That's
was a
super
good year
sweet.
for friends. So I'd be happy to bring them back in my life.
What about you, Ashley?
I moved around a lot. I don't really remember anybody.
What about the kid that led you to the Lord?
I only saw her once.
That's what I'm
She was like
saying.
a guardian angel.
Is
That's
that
I think she was
an angel.
Wow.
You only
saw her
her
once. Her name was Marin.
Wow.
That's
Aaron, if you're out
incredible.
there,
That's crazy.
what town? Ida Bell or something? Where was-
Houston? I don't.
Ida Bell.
You were in Houston?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like some small. I thought it was your grandma's house in some small
Momo
town.
was in Houston.
Oh, I don't know why I had in my head it was a small town. Oh,
I
okay.
mean, my brain back then, I don't even know what a small. I mean, I think it was just Houston.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just Houston.
Well, if you're out there,
That's cool. Well, I've enjoyed visiting with you, and it's always good to sit down and talk with Ashley.
yeah,
Hear
Ashley's
about what's
great.
going
Yeah,
on.
if you enjoyed the show, please send it to someone. The link, rate, review, subscribe, like on YouTube. And if you got topics you want to talk about,
Oh, yeah.
email us at podcast@cityrise.org.
Come on.
Jennifer already knows what we're going to talk about next.
I
I'm
do.
Sure.
So make sure
Ooh,
to stay
tune
tuned
in.
for next week.
Okay.
Get a treat.
But we're still doing bi-weekly, right?
I guess if you want.
It's all up in the air.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys for being with us today. We hope you've had an almost amazing time on the Almost Amazing Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Almost Amazing podcast from the CityRise Network based in Houston, Texas. CityRise is a partnership of church campuses, nonprofits, and missionaries devoted to lifting our city and the world by generously giving the gospel of Jesus Christ. For more information or to find a church campus close to you in the Houston area, visit cityrise.org.